very good morning to you and welcome to Life and Style Inspiration Monday. We've got Motivate, books and blogs, Beyond the Sport, and of course the kitchen. This morning we are at the Sankara Hotel in Westlands to bring you Motivate. Now this guy I'm about to feature today on Motivate has a profile that is larger than life itself. People follow his public life religiously. His face is imprinted in the minds of many Kenyans. No, scratch that. Many Africans and the world at large. His deeds are in the hearts of Kenyans because he is well known for his CSR activities. He is the former CEO of Safaricom, chairman at Kenya Airways. I'm talking about Michael Joseph. We need to find out, what does it take to get to the heights that he did in his career? Please follow me and let's have a delightful conversation with Michael Joseph. Hello, Michael.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
How are you? You look really good. And
Very
thank
casual.
You. I like it casual. I mean, this is off the office, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I decided whether I should wear a suit today or not, and decided not to.
You said it not to.
I don't like suits, actually.
You don't like suits? All those years being a CEO.
Yeah, and that's why. All
And
those
do
years
you show
of
up in
entry.
jeans? Do you show up in jeans?
Yeah. I wear a suit. On Friday.
Friday is when people dress down.
No, because we have our AGM, KQ AGM on Friday. I had a suit on yesterday. I can't remember now, but mostly I try casual.
All right. Thank you so much for having us. Thank
Sure.
you for creating time to speak to us, Michael. It's quite humbling
Oh, okay.
and quite an opportunity for us to learn and understand what it took for you to build the very, very different things that you've put. It's like everything you touch turns to gold. You know that
I
song?
don't know about that.
You don't know the Midas
I'm not
touch.
sure about that. Yeah.
You're not too sure about that.
I've had my share of failures.
You have. So that's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
we're here to just, show people that it's not all success, it's not all glory, that you've gone through some things that have also, set you back a bit, but you also come on top and try to, get the best out of every situation. I'm going to take you back so that people understand when you say you have your own failures. You did not wake up one day and become Michael Joseph. You've always been Michael Joseph, but then again, the Michael Joseph that we know as Kenyans and are so proud to be associated with. At some point, you were an apprentice and you used to fix phones, and most
Yes.
people do not know that. If you can tell us about that experience.
Well, I left school very early age because I started school quite early. I started school when I was 5.
was in South
I was started in South Africa, and so I left. In South Africa, when you left school, you generally left school. You were 18 years, just when you on your 18th birthday, and then in South Africa at that time we had compulsory military conscription. So
Like
you had,
NYS here?
yeah, so you had to go to the military for 9 months to 2 years, depending on which year you left school. But I left school when I was 16, so I was too young to go to military.
Okay.
And for lots of reasons which I don't really want to go into, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a vet. That was my
vet?
a vet or a game ranger was what I wanted to be. So that's what I wanted to be. But at the time, I had no money or no guidance for other reasons. So a friend of mine was going to join what was then Post and Telecommunications as an apprentice. So I said, well, I'll do that too. So it wasn't my choice.
Yeah.
I wasn't a star student at high school for sure.
No.
I wasn't a star in any case. I was a big daydreamer actually. I spent most of my time flying around the world. Anyway, so that's how I got into. I started as an apprentice, and in that time apprenticeship, you had to work 1 month in every single department, and you had to fix phones, you had to fix underground cables, you had to, overhead wires, all those kind of things. You had to go through all those phases, and at the same time, you went to technical college. So that took 3 years of technical college and then working when you were not in technical. So you're 6 months technical college, 6 months working. And then when I finished technical college as a qualified technician, I was supposedly a technician, then I had to go to the army. So the army still didn't give up on you, so you still had to go to mandatory conscription.
How was that experience for you?
Yeah, in the beginning it was tough because I was obviously 3 years older than most of the people there, but I swiftly realized that if I want to sort of get ahead here, you need to become an officer. So I applied to become an officer, and I was successful, but it was tough. It's not an easy ride in the South African Army at that time. But I applied for an officer, and then you go through the whole process and you stay in the military for a while, and then when I came out, I was kind of realized that I didn't want to be a technician all my life.
Okay.
So then I applied to go to university, to University of Cape Town to become an engineer, a graduate engineer. I just managed to get in because my grades at school were very bad, but my technical college helped me because I did quite well at technical college.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I had no money, so this was a big challenge. So I managed to, because I had worked for 3 years, when you were doing your apprenticeship, you got paid, and because I had some sort of pension money saved, I managed to pay my way through the first 2 years at university. So that was quite of a struggle because university was a huge challenge for me in the first 2 years, massive challenge because, I was now, I was now 3 or 4 years beyond high school.
True.
And most of my peers in university came straight out of high school, so their maths and chemistry and all that was very new, fresh to them. For me, it was way back somewhere.
Refresher.
And so for the first 2 years, I really struggled at university. I really struggled, but I worked hard, and that's probably where I get my work ethic from. I worked very hard. I mean, I worked, from 6 in the morning till 12 at night every day, and because I was.
I don't think they do that anymore.
I don't know, but for me, in order to succeed at university, that's what I had to do.
Okay.
But suddenly, at the end of my second year, or the beginning of my third year, suddenly something in my head clicked, and university became easy.
Wow.
I don't know what happened. Suddenly, I started to understand things. Mathematics, chemistry, applied mathematics, physics, all those things
became
easier and understandable and so on. So my last 2 years at university, I then got a bursary because of my results. I got a full-scale bursary.
I think the hard work really caught up with you and made everything easier for you for the last 2 years.
So that's actually my humble beginnings, if you say. And then when I graduated, because I got a bursary from telecoms, Post and Telecoms, which has then become, I think it was called Telecom then. I had to work for another 3 years for Telecom as an engineer.
Wow.
So I went as an engineer. I was a project manager, and then I left it and I joined private enterprise and as a project manager, and I did lots of interesting projects. I built railway lines, overhead power lines, telecoms, signaling systems. Quite a lot of stuff I did both in South Africa and internationally.
It's very interesting that you actually bumped into your career.
So it is. I mean, it's not my chosen career at all, But,
it chose you.
Yeah, it chose me in a way. So it just goes to show that you never know what might happen to you.
That's true.
But you have to. You have to take a chance, and okay, I didn't know that at the time, of course. And then I worked in South Africa and as internationally for quite a long time, moving up the ladder, becoming more bigger responsibility. And then I decided in 1986, by then I was 40 years old, and I was managing director of a group of companies that were in South Africa, Australia, America, and the Middle East. I decided to move to America.
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. I had 2 young daughters. I was divorced. South Africa was still in the depths of apartheid, and I wasn't too sure what would happen. When obviously independence came and freedom came. So I decided to move to America. That was my big. When I decided to move to America and start my own company in America with a bunch of Americans. Then building microwave routes in America. Anyway.
That was such a huge step for you because
Very
I can imagine this is a whole new world.
Whole new world.
You want to try
even it's so different, I don't think people understand how difficult. I think a lot of people do now, but what it is when you move from your home country to a new country with
different culture,
even going to the shops was an ordeal. You go to the supermarket now. In South Africa at the time, if you want to buy, say, bacon, okay, there's one make of bacon and that's what you buy. You go to America and a supermarket and there's like 40 makes of bacon.
And then you have to decide
and you don't even know what to buy. Eventually,
sometimes even the one that you know is not there.
It's not there, and then eventually you give up. It's like, oh God, this is a, the choice is so big, so enormous, and it was quite a disastrous time for me because the American partners that I had, who were going to join me and put the money in as well, because I had to invest in order to go to America. You had to make to get your visa. You had to make an investment, and they decided not to invest in the end, and they left me holding just me. And you can't build a company with just one individual installing microwave systems and climbing towers and things like that. And so I actually lost all my money. and eventually had to sort of stop because I didn't have any more money, and that was probably one of the lowest points of my life, is that you had no money, your career was gone, you were in a foreign country, your kids were back home, your family was there, knew no one, So the temptation was at that point was to go back to South Africa.
That would come naturally to anyone. Like, let me just go back home.
Just go back.
They say east-west, home is best.
But
I was going to ask this later, but then you bring it out clearly right now that this was one of the lowest moments of your life. But then again, how did you get out of that and just keep the focus going? This is totally new for you.
I have for some strange reason, and if you look into my youth, which I don't really want to go into, but if you look into my youth, I'm not a religious person, but I am a religious person. I believe that there's a plan. I believe that there is a plan. And for you, and you just have to follow that plan and be true to yourself, even in that time. And it's a funny incident, but I was working in Colorado Springs, which is doing a project in Colorado Springs. Then, by the way, so I should have said, I gave up my company, and I just became an independent consultant. Okay. And fortunately, I had got some work from this company, and I was doing a project in Colorado Springs, which is, I don't know if you know, but it's the headquarters for I forget now the name of the American NORAD. It's headquarters for NORAD, which is the American headquarters for anti-nuclear war. So all this it's inside the Cheyenne Mountains. There's a place, and they monitor. And the interest in the Cold War, if there was a missile coming, that would be controlled from. And I was working. So there's a big academy, a military academy in Colorado Springs. And just one Sunday I was there, and I said, well, is there a chapel around here? I wouldn't mind going to a chapel. And somebody said, oh, it's over there, it's down there. And I went there, and it wasn't really a chapel. It was just a room, interdenominational chapel for the American military. And I just sat there, and I was just thinking what to do. Should I go home? Should I stay? Whatever. And then it just came to me that I should stay. When you come into this world, when you're born into this world, you're not supposed to spend your 70 or 80 or 90 years on this world just consuming. True. You come here with, you came here for a purpose. The other the thing I have is that, it sort of gained credibility or in my life because I. In a way I lived in America and within the community in which I lived, is that your life is a spiral. And most people live their life in a circle. The mistakes you make today, you'll make again soon. And you'll go round and round in a circle, and you'll just keep on repeating the errors of the past. Yeah. And you never want to take a chance to move out of that circle. The life in a capital L presents you with opportunities. Now you can define what life is depending on your religion. Is it God? Is it Allah? Whatever it may be. You define it. But life presents you with opportunities, and you need to take those opportunities in order to move to the next layer above where you were. So instead of going around and around repeating the same old thing and be bored in your job, you need to take a chance. Some chances may not work out. Yeah. Some things may not happen. Some things will. But you need to take a risk, and that's the kind of my life has been that way.
It's true, it's been that way. I mean, after losing everything, then you have something as huge as M-Pesa with your MJ rubber stamp right there.
Right. So, but still, I was a young engineer, even in my 40s, working for various companies, doing projects around the world. I lived in South America for a long time. I lived in Asia for quite a while. And then, for various reasons, I moved back to Europe. I left the US and moved back to Europe. And I was working in Hungary, so I'm taking a shortcut here, okay? So otherwise we'll be here forever. So anyway, we can go back if we need to. But I sort of take a shortcut because I worked in projects, telecom projects in South America and Asia and so on. I built, just as an example, I built the first mobile network in Argentina. Yeah, and the fastest ever in history, ever. It was a fantastic project. Anyway, so I then moved to Europe and then ended up working for Vodafone in Hungary. Now, I'm taking some shortcuts here, okay, because along the way I got married a couple of times.
How many times, Michael?
How many times?
How many?
I've been married 4 times. I'm in my 4th marriage.
You're doing great.
And my last marriage.
The last, are you sure? It's
yeah.
not a comma.
Yes, I have. No, definitely. Sure.
Okay.
For various reasons. Okay, this is another part of your life where you take chances and some things don't work and some things
I
do.
think you're a risk taker,
yeah,
which
so
makes you a very good businessman.
which you know, it's kind of, even getting married a few times, there are reasons for all of them.
That's true.
And reasons for whatever. But you know, it's very, very personal, so I don't go there. So in the end, I ended up in Hungary. I was the chief technical officer, and I built the network in Hungary for Vodafone. And I was wanting to stay in Hungary because I loved Hungary. I loved Budapest. It was full of culture, opera. It was a fantastic capital, beautiful woman. I was not married at the time, and I wanted to stay there. I really liked it, you know. And so I was in line to become the CEO in Hungary, but they didn't want to give me the job. They said my personality is not suited to being a European CEO. You know,
Interesting.
it was not the right fit, you know, from a character point of view, personality point of view, to be a nice, diplomatic, tactful person. And so I knew I wasn't going to get the job, and I was thinking actually of moving back to the US, because by then my children had moved. Not by then, sometime they had joined me in the US when they graduated high school, and they were living in Atlanta at the time. So I was thinking of going back to the US. And I was sitting on a bus going to a company function, and some guy said, "Oh, you know, we've just made a deal in Kenya. You know, we've just signed a deal with Telkom Kenya as Vodafone to take over Safaricom." And I said, "Oh, you know, I wouldn't mind going to Kenya. You know, having never been here, and always wanted to come because of the migration. You know, because of the Serengeti and so on." And the next day I got a call to come in for an interview. So I didn't apply for the job, but I just mentioned to this guy that I wanted to do it. And I got a call to come in for an interview, and they looked at me and they said, "Well, you know, this is the best place for me to go because, you know, first of all, it was bound to fail. This is not a great corrupt country, you know, not a very big prospects, but send him there, you know."
You're trying to get rid of him.
Not get rid of you, but he can probably give it a shot, you know.
Yeah.
And if he fails, also what, you know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I got the job, and nobody else
That was
wanted it.
2000.
Actually, nobody else wanted it, so it's not a great credit to me that I got the job, because nobody else wanted to go. But so I came here in 2000, and I came with five people came here together with me from Vodafone, and we started, you know, we took on Safaricom, you know, and we started in Norfolk Towers, in a flat in Norfolk Towers, a little flat.
A flat.
A flat, yes, a flat.
A flat. Wow.
An apartment, you know, a small apartment in Norfolk Towers on the ground floor. I don't know, you know, that's what we hired to start. So there were 5 of us there starting the company. What to do, how to do it. You know, we took over the assets from Telkom Kenya, which was then, I think, 11 base stations here in Nairobi. The service was very bad. People complained all the time. It was congested, whatever.
At this point, did you know that Safaricom would become what it is
No,
right
of
now?
course not. Of course not. We
Wow.
did not know this, you know. And this is another lesson, I think, for people, is that when we came here, we had a business plan that was developed by the Vodafone guys, the back office people, finance people. We had a business plan that said something, you know, we might or might not be successful in 5 years' time. You know, we might have 400,000 or 500,000 customers, maybe, you know, but the chances of failure were high because, first of all, it was very corrupt. You know, most of our calls either originated or terminated on the Telkom network, and they had to pay us for those calls, but they wouldn't pay. There was a competitor here already, which was the French guys. Vivendi had already started. So the whole thing was, you know, doomed to failure, and we didn't have a lot of cash. You know, the investment that Vodafone made at that time, I think, was $22 million. And in those days, one switch cost $10 million. So, you know, money didn't go very far in those days. So anyway, but, you know, nevertheless, we plowed on and we started the company. And there was very little data to go on during that time. Very little, you know, market data.
Yeah.
You know, we knew how many people there were, but who they were and how much they earned, and the economic data. There's very little data to go on. And I'm not a great, as I told you, I'm not a very patient person to sit through all these, you know, sift through all this data.
Yeah.
And in the first couple of months, it was very interesting because then we had to set the standard for Safaricom. You know, we had to set the tone. What would Safaricom look like? And we were very fortunate that we made, that time, okay, now in hindsight, were very wise decisions. But at the time we made them, it didn't seem like very wise because we had not enough data to say this is a good decision, not a good decision.
Yeah. You travel the world a lot for work, family. How do you put a balance to that? Being there, because I mean, work is as important as probably family is more important.
I am sorry to say that I don't have a balance. I mean, it's
No
completely
balance?
skewed. It's completely skewed.
What do you mean?
I work hard, and it's my life.
Even at this age, Michael.
Even at this age, look. So I built Safaricom. I stepped down from Safaricom at the end of 2010
Yes.
and handed over to Bob. I worked the following year. I worked for the Gates Foundation and the World Bank for a year,
Yes,
sabbatical.
good for them.
And I traveled a lot around the world,
Yeah.
pushing mobile money, financial inclusion, and then Vodafone asked me to come and run mobile money M-Pesa on a worldwide basis. So I went to London and started that. And I just stepped down from that role end of this month, and now I have this Kenya Airways job. But I've always been very enthusiastic about doing things, thinking, challenging myself, and I've always been a hard worker, and
I think
my life
people
has
have
been.
noticed that, because if you see, they try to put you at places where they need something to be revived, something needs to be that Midas touch. It's actually true.
Yeah, but it's not a
people
Midas
do-
touch. I wish I
And
could
hard
say
work.
I wish I could share your confidence, but
Yeah.
okay, I work hard. I travel a lot. I have but when I do go home and relax, like I have a home, as you probably know, in Lewa.
Yeah.
I was there this weekend. I had 24 hours to myself for the first time in a very long
How
time.
was that for you? What
And
did
that
you
was
do?
fantastic.
What did you do?
Nothing.
Read a book?
Nothing. Read a book.
Nothing.
Sit around, watch the animals. That's I have the ability to handle a lot of stress, and of course, as you get older, it's not as easy. The traveling becomes much more tiring. But this Midas touch, I'm not so sure, because if you look at my career, I mean, I have to relatively go back and be modest and not be. I built Safaricom to be a very successful company. It was the biggest success of my life. From a professional point of view, it was the biggest success of my life. Can I replicate it again? It's not a foregone conclusion. The ingredients to make Safaricom successful were very different to try to make Kenya Airways successful.
Yeah.
In Safaricom, I started the company myself. I
Yeah.
created the culture right from the very beginning. I hired most of the top team. Doing the same in a Kenya Airways is not a foregone conclusion, and that is probably a high risk for me, because you measured by your last success.
True.
And so everybody remembers me now for Safaricom and M-Pesa.
Yes.
If I fail at Kenya Airways, they'll remember me for Kenya Airways.
No, we will not. We will
But
remember
that
you.
is that's the risk you take.
I totally. And
Yeah.
it's so sad that this conversation is about to come to an end. But you being a boss over and over
I thought we
again.
had 4 hours.
You,
I thought you wanted me for 4 hours.
not 4 hours.
Oh.
But yeah, maybe Nerea will explain why she needs you for 4 hours. But yeah, so being a boss over and over again, there's of course something you mentioned that there's something you create, a culture you create, probably you created in Safaricom, and that you grew with it and with the people in it. What was that, and why is it hard, or why you're not so sure about it with the Kenya Airways? Is it because you didn't start it?
No, because you didn't start it, and also you're inheriting a company, or first of all, I'm the chairman, okay?
Yes.
That's very different from being the CEO.
Yes, true.
Sometimes it's quite hard for me to tell the difference. Sometimes I act like I'm the CEO too. No,
Okay.
you're going into a company where you did not create the culture.
Yes.
And to be a successful company, it's all about people. The systems and the hardware and things you can just buy. But the people culture is the hardest thing to change if you didn't create it in the first place. And that's my challenge is how can I change the culture of a company that's 40 years old, that is different from what I experienced in Safaricom.
Yeah.
It's not a thing you can do overnight.
No.
It's not something you can succeed in 6 months, 9 months, a year. It takes a while to change a culture.
What philosophy, apart from hard work, or mantra do you live by? Things that keep you focused, or things that you do repeatedly that keep you focused to whatever you want to accomplish?
I think, I just think, there's a saying, this is time and tide waiteth for no man.
They don't.
And that's kind of how I kind of live. There's no time. You've got to get on and do it.
Yeah.
But you need to be honest. You need to behave with integrity. And you need to be fair, and you need to be strong. There's no ways you can be a leader of a company and be weak. You can't lead from behind. And those are the things that have sort of driven me in my personality. People think I'm very abrupt. They think I'm arrogant. They think I'm not very diplomatic. But in fact, I'm actually, if I told you about my upbringing in my childhood, I'm a very shy person. This for me is not easy.
Really?
I'm not an extrovert. Michael. I'm definitely not an extrovert. My successor is much more extrovert than me. In my time in Safaricom, I had to force myself to go to all these social functions. I only went because they were my customers.
Yeah.
Did I want to go?
No.
Definitely not. And even, so for me, by sort of focusing on behaving with integrity, with honesty, and doing whatever I do properly and to the best of my ability, that gets me through and drives me to be successful.
Right.
Okay, I have the fruits of success, that people think I'm extremely wealthy, but I'm not. I've been an employee for all my life.
Are you sure you're not successful, Michael? I think you're very rich, no?
No, I'm in money, in material assets, definitely not. I have a home in London.
Okay.
Because I had to have a home in London to live. I have my house on Lower, and I have one car, and that's it.
Right.
That's my assets.
And not in Kenya. And not in Kenya.
This is my home on Lower.
Yeah.
And I don't own it. I don't own the land. The land is conservancy.
Yeah.
But I'm not poor, but I'm not a wealthy person. I remember one time I was very upset when the KRA made me the most highest, or the most, something about the taxpayer of the year or something like that, right? Twice in a row. And I objected strongly that they said, I'm not rich, come on guys, it's only because I pay my taxes.
Oh goodness. Thank you so much for having us, Michael.
Okay, sure.
And you've been quite an inspiration today, and I hope all the people out there know that this is not easy. You did not wake up, you have to put in the time. You have to, you have to put in time for you to get something into it.
I often tell people, young people, or when I am asked it, they said, they look at me or they look at other people, peers that are, successful in their 30s and 40s, or even, I became successful as a successful business person with Safaricom. I was 55 years old when I came to Kenya. That's when I became successful. The last 10, 15 years of my life has been the most successful. There's no substitute for hard work.
True.
There's no substitute for behaving fairly and properly and driving and being very, being a leader. That's what you need to do to be successful.
True.
Not all of us are born with a silver spoon in our mouth.
Yeah.
That's the measure of success is what you want it to be. I believe I'm successful not because I have a lot of money, but because how much lives I've changed in Kenya.
Wow. That is impactful.
Yeah,
I think this conversation ends there. This is
Okay.
so interesting that the way you measure success is not the way people do. It's not material. It's the lives that you change. That is what is impactful. That is how people should look at things. And I hope if you're watching this show, you are thinking of success in that particular way. I hope this interview has been impactful and you're going to try and work a little bit harder. And for the microwave generation out there that finishes high school and college and thinks, you know what, I want to be a millionaire now, whatever. He became successful at 55. He came to Kenya at 55. For the last 15 years, that's what's been remarkable and what he is so proud of, and in terms of success. So what about you? What story are you writing about your life? This has been Motivate. Remember to tell us what mantra, what philosophy you live by. Share that with us on social media. It's KTN Life and Style on Facebook, KTN Life and Style, KTN Life _style on Twitter, and Instagram. SMS is 22840. We're taking a very short commercial break. When we come back, we have Catherine Mwangi on Books and Blogs, and then we have Beyond the Sports and the Kitchen. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.
The moment man loses the truth of their identity, they lose the place of their existence.